Hey, what's up, you sexy bitches, and welcome back to this week's Weekly D. Today I have the awesome Amie the Mermaid on the show, and I'm super excited for you to listen to this podcast as we talk about a few different things, but the main thing we talk about is the new style that she has very much created within the exo pole community, and I'm super excited for you to learn a little bit more about it and learn a little bit more about this lovely person that she is. So yeah, without further ado, this is the Weekly D. Because honey, if you ain't getting your D on the daily, well, you better at least be getting it once on the weekly. Enjoy the show.
If you're not getting any and you want some tea, then come and join Dan up on the Weekly D. It's the Weekly D.
Amie, thanks for joining me on my podcast today. How you doing, babe?
How are you?
I'm good. How are you? You got your dog. What's your dog's name? Who is this little guy?
This is Ola. So obviously the confusion with Ola and then now being brand ambassador for Olra is insane. I'm like,
I didn't even think about that actually. Yeah, I didn't even think about that actually. That's like, because you've just become a brand ambassador for Olra, haven't you? And Olra do all the cool, like, what are they called? They're not called catsuits. What are they called?
Jumpsuits.
Like one pieces?
Jumpsuits, like
jumpsuits.
Yeah, like it's a signature jumpsuit. But then sometimes I say like unitard, but I'm not even sure that's the right word either.
No, I think jumpsuit is probably the best. Yeah, I'd say jumpsuit is actually a pretty good way to describe it. So before we get started, I always like people to start the podcast off by telling people a little bit about who they are, just in case someone's listening to this and they don't know who Amie the Mermaid is yet. I want you just to give like a kind of like a little bio, a brief overview of who you are. So, you ready?
Yeah, who am I? Good question. Okay, so I basically have been pole dancing for 5.5 years. I don't come from a dance background. I try and put a little bit of humour into my day and try and laugh things off very quickly. Character-wise, I've got a good heart, but sometimes I mess up.
Don't we all?
I'm a recovering oversharer, and like that's definitely something I've learned recently, is to not overshare too much, but also to share enough to connect with people. I love fashion, I love design, I love art. I'm in my 3rd year at uni, finishing off in May with my final exams, which I can't wait because that is super stressful.
What are you doing at uni?
Design and innovation. So it's been the best thing I've done. Like, honestly, as well, like if you're like creative, it gets you into like an understanding of how to create things in a specific order. It just makes it a lot easier to create, which I think I've brought a lot of that into my dancing recently as well. So yeah, that's basically me. I was teaching.
So,
go on, sorry.
You mentioned about art. Like art is kind of a big part of your life. And again, I actually forgot to ask a question whether you're okay to talk about this. But I want to talk about your tattoos, because I guess that's like a very outward way of expressing yourself and art. And you're very well known for your tattoos, right? Because you've got how many have you got in total, actually? Do you know the number?
I don't actually know, because sometimes things are like one big piece, but then if you like divided them all into little parts, then, well, I've definitely got over 100, I know that, but I can't really count them, if that makes sense, because I don't know which ones you'd describe as a full piece, or are they individual because there's a flower there and a love heart there and whatever else. So I've definitely got over 100, and I actually did work in a tattoo studio for a little while, so hence why I'm absolutely covered in tattoos.
So when you're in the tattoo studio, do you guys, like, when you're just a bit bored, do you just say, oh, go on, do me a tattoo?
Yeah,
just do one
pretty
here.
much. If there's been like a cancellation that day, it's like, I fancy this today, and voila, we're here with tattoos everywhere. It was weird that,
So,
go on, sorry.
I was just going to say, I want to ask about, because you do have so many tattoos. And I know you've had the comments on Instagram and stuff, and you do have, for anyone who's not watching this on YouTube or aren't watching it on Spotify, Amie's got tattoos on her face, which I think are super cool. But I can imagine maybe some people find them intimidating, right? So, like, because I know you've had, and I think you've shared on your Insta stories where people have commented on them.
Yeah.
Like, how do you deal with stuff like that?
So I actually just recently shared about this because I usually keep it to myself, because when you look at it from an outsider perspective, you're very like, well, actually, she chose to do that to her skin. Therefore, you've got to deal with the consequences of that. However, my nature doesn't understand that people are so cruel. So when I went through this process, I had no idea the backlash, because I genuinely thought everyone had a heart that was quite accepting, and I was wrong. Like, I was so wrong. And honestly, like,
Welcome to social media, Babs.
yeah, so it's actually like, it's not just social media. Like, say I go to the shop for a loaf of bread and I just want to pay for my bread. I just want to make some toast, scrambled egg on toast. And I just get the look or the nudge or like, and like, just the comment, and you can even, do you know what? You don't even have to say anything. You can just tell that you're being judged, and it's that hypervigilance of like constantly being judged that you don't sometimes. Sometimes I don't even want to leave my house. I'm like, okay, are you ready to be judged today? And then you've got the aspect of social media where TikTok is way worse than Instagram, by the way. Oh my gosh. It's like insane. So
Really?
yeah, like men on TikTok, you should be ashamed, okay? Because it's like, you will never get married with a face like that. And it's like, who said I even want to get married? But anyway, regardless, it's just horrific stuff. Like, but because I've dealt with it for so long, like I've had my face tattooed for like 5 or 6 years, it's not things that I've not heard before. So like now I'm in a space where it's like, you can't really say anything that's going to upset me too much. However, I'm a human being and it does hurt my feelings from time to time, especially when it's constant. And then, yeah, so it's a bit of a battle when it comes to my skin, because I took them off once on my face, took all my tattoos off with some theatre makeup, and my mum was like, oh my goodness, no, that's just not you. Like, and she was the worst when I first had them done. She was like, what are you doing? You're ruining your life. And I was like, Mum, it's just who I am. I want to do this. Let me do it. And now when I took them off, she's like, oh my gosh, that's not my daughter. Like, you are who you are. And it was like,
Yeah.
it was weird to see myself. I'll have to post a picture without my face tattoos one time and just shock. Although having said that, that gold shoot took them all off recently, didn't it? I painted gold all
Right.
over my face and it took all my tattoos off. And it was a little bit like, whoa, what's going on here?
Yeah. I see these these videos on like TikTok and stuff where people have all their tattoos like with the theatre makeup. They have, I see it a lot. I don't know why this comes up. It used to, not so much anymore. It was women who were getting married who wanted to cover up their tattoos just for their wedding photos. They didn't want it to, I guess they don't want it to outshine their dress, because obviously the tattoos, especially when they've got their arms out like that, they don't want it to outshine anything. So yeah, so it was like she was getting it all like painted off basically, and I was like, I couldn't believe how realistic it looks. I was like, bloody hell. But, it's such a cool form of expressing yourself. What kind of got you into the tattoo side of things? Like, how did that start for you?
So going back a little bit, when I was 17, I joined the army. I was a combat medic. So I did that for 7 years. And this was around sort of Afghan Iraq time. So it's really traumatizing, not a nice experience for all of us at that point.
Did you have to go on tour?
Yeah. And
oh, you did?
Yeah. And I think everyone, like all of us that left from that period, are still going through things now. It was insane, like just insane. My first visit was in Cyprus, and I was on the border of where Nicosia is, and the hotel I was staying in like had been taken over, and it was just full of bullet holes. And I was 18 then, and that was sort of my life for 7 years, and it was hard. But what happened was I got medically discharged with PTSD when I was 24, and as part of being discharged, you go through like a rehab with Help for Heroes, and there was an art therapist there. So I was like, well, I ain't got anything to lose by sitting and drawing and doodling with a lady an hour each week. So I did that, and I realised I could draw. I was like, oh, I can actually draw quite well, and I didn't know that about myself. And I ended up getting a job at a tattoo studio just because they were like, well, you need to put your drawings to good use. What interests you? And I was like, well, I like tattoos, I guess. So I ended up in that industry for a little bit. And yeah.
Did you have any tattoos at this point when you went into the so when you went into the tattoo shop?
Yeah, you'd get a few, because obviously it was like culture, like in the army, to like, should we go get a tattoo? Like, so I had a few. You was allowed as well, but they just couldn't. I don't know the rules now, but you couldn't have them on show, and I think you had to declare them, and obviously they can't be sort of a bad nature. I can't remember the rules exactly, but yeah, it was like a thing that where you'd go get a tattoo together in the army and stuff. So yeah, it was that actually steered me to the artistic side, because I found a lot of healing from art in general, just drawing. And when I got into the tattoo studio, I was very specialised in portraits. And I still, to this day, I love portraits. I'm not good with animal portraits because the fur's really hard to draw, but people, faces, wrinkles, I love it. Like, I could just, it's such an art to be able to draw someone's face, because you've got to get the measurements so right. Because if your eye is like a 1 centimetre out, you're going to look completely different in a drawing or a tattoo. So yeah, it was very scientific, even though it was art. So yeah, that was how I came into the art side of things. And then I was kind of like, hang on, like in the studio for a few years, and I was like, I've always loved dancing. Like, I've danced always. Like, why am I not dancing? And doing the art made me ask myself a lot of questions. And so, yeah, that's how I just switched over to sort of pole dancing. And that was a little bit of a journey as well, doing that.
And do you not do the tattooing at all anymore? So that's not like your 9 to 5 job.
No.
You do pole full time.
So what happened with that was, I was like, do you know what? I'm just going to take a year out. And I did. I took a year out, and I saw a little advert. I think back in the day when I was on Facebook, which I've not been on Facebook for years, I saw a little advert for a studio that was advertising hoop. So I actually did hoop first, and I loved it. I was absolutely wild for aerial hoop. And then I saw the poles like in the room next door, and I was like, I want to try that, but it looks really hard. And my first lesson was hilarious. And I don't know what happened. It's just like the first lesson I was like, I really, really love this a lot. So I just became obsessed very quickly. And I think that's how I like progressed, because I was just there all the time. I just fell in love with it. And then, yeah, I started teaching. But then COVID hit and things just wasn't aligning. So, yeah, I took a break from teaching, and then I've just come back to it now. And I'm just really excited about it. I love it. I feel like I've come back stronger as well.
Do you think you'll ever go back to the tattooing side of your career?
So I tell you what it was that was hard. It was so you're at home, you're relaxing, 11 o'clock at night, someone sends you a reference in. Can you please draw this for me? I'd like it as a tattoo, please. And it's like, okay, this is not the time to be. And back then, like I don't think we had boundaries either. So usually you would just not pick your phone up. Now you wouldn't pick your phone up till the next day and read it. But back then you would just be like, how rude you message me at 11 o'clock when I'm trying to relax. But yeah, it was the stress of people wanting something drawn straight away. It was like, I need this drawing. And a few hours later, it's like, have you drawn it yet? It's like, well, actually, no, I've got another client. Like, I don't know where. And so it was stressful, because we're so instant in this world. We want things done now. And it's just not possible with like that kind of thing. I know that the technology is advanced with tattooing, as in you could send a reference in, put it straight on your iPad and transfer it straight on if that's this specific design you wanted. But a lot of people do like custom still, and it was a stressful job. I love the art side of it, but I don't like the stress that came with it. So no, I don't think I would go back to that.
Was it hard being a woman in that industry?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. It's weirdly enough, you know how you associate traits of women, like jealousy in women, but actually men in that industry, if you was good at something, really was showing jealousy in different ways than women would. And they would do it in like a bullying nature, like they'd just be mean to you, and really they're just threatened by your presence. Whereas I find like women don't do that when they're jealous. They just talk a little about you and say it behind your back.
I noticed that. So Mitch's cousin, she's a tattoo artist. I don't know if you would have heard of her. Courtney Lloyd Tattoos, I think her name is, on Instagram. She's London.
Yeah.
Yeah, but because she's like a female tattoo artist, she's super hot. The guys like love her, and I went to a tattoo convention, and like the women there are like, I was like, oh, let me just look this person up and see what they're like on Instagram. They got like millions of followers. I'm like, oh my God, like these female tattoo artists are like freaking killing it. So it's kind of no wonder really that the men are intimidated by it, because I assume it's like really intimidating to have these women coming into the industry who, are just at exactly the same level that the men are, but also they're attractive. And the men, a lot of men like to get tattoos. So it's that whole thing of like, well, the women will want to go to the women because they would probably prefer to have a woman. They might feel safer.
Agreed.
And the men might also want to go to the women because they're hot. So it's that whole thing of like, maybe that's why they're intimidated by them. Probably intimidated because they think, well, where are my clients going to all go? Yeah, it's weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's funny, actually. I know a lot of tattoo artists. Do you know a pole dancer called Emily Stockings?
Yes.
Did you know that her husband is like Mike Stockings? He's like a famous tattoo artist. He's like,
do you know what? Now I'm going to have to go and have a look. You've told me this. I need to go look at his work because I love. I know
he's amazing.
Oh my gosh! I need to go and have a look.
He's amazing.
I'm coming to look.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Oh, hey, so sorry to interrupt your episode. I just wanted to come on really quickly and tell you about one of our sponsors for this episode. And today's sponsor is Aura Activewear. Aura Activewear is a fitness apparel brand which are based in the UK and founded by the Charlotte Robertson. If you don't know who Charlotte Robertson is, go and check her out. She is amazing. And she was inspired to create versatile pole and aerial clothing with movement in mind. And that is so evident with her collection. You can go and check it out. She's got some super awesome bodysuits. I wish I could wear bodysuits because I tell you, I could, of course. I could if I wanted to, right? But not sure it would suit me, but the people who are wearing these suits look super cute in them. So if you love a bodysuit, go and check out her bodysuits. And actually, she's just released a beautiful new bodysuit with lace on it, which I think is so gorgeous. It's got like this cute little cutout bit in the middle. You have to go and check it out. Oh, and also, if you do want to go and check them out, you can get 20% off using code POLOLS. That's code POLOLS. So go and check out Aura Activewear. let's get back to the episode.
So tell me about, so I never knew that you were in the army. Like, tell me about that period of your life. Do you still suffer with the PTSD, or how are you going with that? Or is that still a big part of your life?
Yeah, 100% is like, I think with trauma in general, it changes your brain and you do not go back to the same person pre-trauma. I had this like fantasy of like chasing this healing journey of like, okay, I can get myself back to that. I can heal. There's this book that says I can heal myself in 20 days. And I really chased everything possible to go back to that girl, and she'd gone. Like, it was, there's something new being born here. But PTSD is really difficult to understand if you don't have it. It affects every aspect of your life. So, for instance, socially, I become withdrawn. I can get triggered and I don't want to leave my house. I think for me, isolation is my number one thing. So I tend to shut all my friends out. And people know this about me, and I'm quite honest about it now. Like, if I'm quiet, you know that I'm probably going through something. And I think it's the little things, the way it affects your friendships, your relationships, the way you interact with the world, your lack of trust in anything. You're always looking over your shoulder. Even like walking down the street, you know them like cars that sort of bang, like they like do that thing with the exhaust where they like make like firework noises. Even that triggers me. And firework night, can't stand it. The sight of like anything squeamish makes me want to faint. And this is like someone who that was my, sorry, there's some weird noises coming from this dog. It's not me, by the way. Yeah, so I just changed as a person. But then like now it's like I'm in a place of acceptance, whereas before it was like I was constantly trying to run back pre-Amie, whereas now it's like, no, this is who you are now, and that's okay. So I try not to overwhelm myself with work. I take on what I think I will cope with, and I try and be really like honest with people. Like, this is where I'm at. And if I can't do something, I feel terrible about it as well. Like, I'll carry it with me. So there is things I'm still working on with like PTSD, and it's always going to be there. I don't think it ever goes away. But I think you just got to find the tools to cope with it, which for me, like pole and dancing is one of them, and obviously competing. That's been a big game changer in a focus. And I like that focus of every day. Of
keeping your mind busy.
Yeah, it's something to like, and learning to love the process of putting a piece together rather than the outcome. So yeah, it's definitely something I live with. It also affects your body as well, because I get chronic pain, and you wouldn't think it.
What does that mean, actually? Do you mind explaining that to me? Because, you know, when you hear people say, I suffer with chronic pain, I just say, oh, okay. I don't really know what it actually means in reality. So do you mean just like your whole body hurts, or like a certain area always hurts, but there's nothing actually wrong with it, or there is something wrong with it? Like, how does it work?
So it's so complex, but I'll try and just narrow it down for you. So for me, I have fibromyalgia, and that is from PTSD. Like, the consultant was amazing. She was like, look, it is what it is. Yoga will help. Off you go. And she was just real about it. She was like, you could take all these tablets, etc., but movement, yoga is your 100% way of dealing with it. And the pain is like, when I'm stressed, everything hurts in my body, and it's like muscle tension everywhere. Or at the minute, it's been my jaw, and it just locks, and I'm just holding this stress. It can bounce. I can have like knee pain one day, shoulder pain the next day, and it was like really hard. I thought, oh my gosh, have I got like arthritis or something? Like, what is this? But it's not. It's just I think a lot of people that have got like chronic pain have got some sort of trauma that's unresolved, and it just sits in the body, and
Yeah.
it yeah, it's a genuine pain all over. But like to describe, it's pretty difficult. But yeah, it can bounce.
Yeah.
It can bounce from different joints, and your legs can hurt one day, and then maybe your wrists the next day, or it can be a generalized pain. But it's hard. Pain is hard to talk about because you can't really measure it, can you? It's a weird one.
Of course. Yeah, it's so difficult to say, isn't it? I mean, it's like, I mean, totally different subject, but like talking about like when people talk about pain when it comes to pole, you know what I mean? Like different people have different perceptions on like, does it hurt? Well, I mean, for me, not so much, but it might hurt you. Do you know what I mean? Like, it depends. Like, what do you consider painful? I consider myself to have a fairly high pain threshold.
Yeah.
So, do you? And so when people ask that question, yeah, I guess I understand what you mean, because it's so hard to say. Because what I consider painful, you might not consider painful.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a pain that's linked to it's type of emotional linked pain, I guess.
100%.
Yeah.
I'm reading a
sounds
really
horrible.
good book at the minute, and it's called "The Body Keeps a Score," and that's really helped me connect both of like the brain and the body and the effects of trauma and what that does to your body over time. And that I really recommend that book, like if anyone's struggling with stuff like that, because it's almost like you feel so confused, and it takes so many years off you. You feel robbed as well, because you're like, if I knew this 5 years ago, but obviously things do take time. But it's just I just hope that I think education is key when it comes to stuff like this. Learning about the subject, if you've been diagnosed with it, just really understanding what it is and what your triggers are, and just making sure you've got things in your toolbox for when it isn't a good day. I think that's key. And it's okay to have bad days, even if you haven't got these situations. Like my mum says to me, she's like, people have bad days anyway, Amie. Like they do. And I was like, that made me feel more connected by her saying that. I know some people might think, oh, that's taken away. No, it's not, because people do. It's not, you might be in pain, but most humans are going through a little bit of suffering, like grieving, etc. So you're not on your own with it, and people, the right people do listen and they do care. So that's always important to remember as well.
Yeah, I agree. You mentioned earlier on about like they told you to do yoga and stuff, and then you're dancing and stuff. Where do you think? Because one thing that you're very well known for, and becoming well known for, is your very unique style of dance. It's one of the things that we wanted to talk about in this podcast, wasn't it? It's about your style and the fact there's not really any people doing it. I mean, there's a couple people doing similar sort of movements, but it's not quite the same. Where do you think not the idea of it, because obviously it's not really an idea, it's just your style, I guess, but like, where do you think it comes from? Like, where do you think that creative process, was it a process where you said, well, I'm going to dance like this because kind of thing, or was it just like, I'm going to move and see what this looks like in my body? Like, how do you come to find the style? Do you know what I mean?
I think it was born. I know what you say. I know exactly what you're trying to ask, actually, because it's quite...
It's a hard question.
Yeah, I know what you're trying to say. I've heard, yes, so don't worry. So it was definitely born. So when I put my heels on for the first time, so I've been, obviously it's 5.5 years, so it was probably a year in that I put my first pair of heels on. So it was like, okay, there's a set way to dance in heels, and so this is what I must learn. And when you say heels, you automatically think, oh, it must be sexy choreo, or it has to be sexy choreo. So I think actually learning the foundations of it is really important, by the way, because then you can branch off eventually. So the basic floor work that you do learn is so important, because you can then adapt it to your own, but we'll get onto that another time. But what happened is I was going more and more into dancing with heels flowing and exploring all these different things. And the more I tried to dance that what was like trending or looked so perfectly seamless, the more disconnected I felt from myself. And I felt like I wasn't being true to myself when I was dancing, because it was like almost like it's just what had been done before. Like we was all kind of doing the same thing. And I was like, this doesn't feel like me. Why don't I feel good about myself when I'm dancing anymore? I couldn't make that connection. And then obviously, about a year and a half ago, I went into a refuge and I lost like my home, my friends.
Sorry, what does that mean? What's a
A
refuge mean?
refuge is like a women's refuge. So when you've gone through like domestic violence, you get removed from there for your safety and go to a refuge. And
Oh, okay.
you lose a lot. Like I lost a lot anyway, and that was when this kind of movement was born, because I'd lost everything, and I had these really deep conversations with myself, and I was like, what are you doing? Like, what are you actually doing? Like, what makes you happy? Like, what do you want out of things? Like, why are you stopping? It's like all these conversations I had to have with myself, because it was like forced upon me, because everything had been stripped back. So I was able to have this conversation. And from there, I just think that from that like rock bottom, I built up something new that would felt more authentic to me. And so like now, I think the style that's coming out, I'm just trying to tell you something. I don't know what I'm telling you, but it just feels right to me. And like, it's also almost like a rebellion as well, because I'm like, I want to flex my foot in my heel and trigger you, like, because it almost feels like it looks a little bit wrong sometimes, and I'm like, but I want to
You
come
want
away.
people to feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, like I like it. Like it's like, what are you doing? But it's also like, I think it's like, I don't know what's happening with this style. I have no idea, but I know that it's sort of, people are really interested in it. And it was born
Remember, I was
from
going to say,
a sad time.
remember I sent you that video of, I can't remember what his name was now, I think it was Gabriel, that did, it was kind of similar. It was the closest I guess I
Yeah.
could get to what you do. And I remember at the time when Marion shared it, people were just like, whoa, like, you know how you do the thing where you turn your heels on their side and you kind of like, you've got your feet flat on the floor, but and it looks really odd. And I remember when he did that and everyone was a bit like, whoa, what is he doing? And then people just kind of like lived for it and was like, oh my God, this is so different, so artistic and cool. And just like, how would you describe the style? Like, I call it like alien style, not in like a mean way, as in like, but it's just so like different and like exo alien, we should call it.
Yeah, it's weird because a lot of people, I don't know if you've noticed, but a lot of people are describing it as alien or like cyborg.
I like it.
Yeah, but I was like, okay, like I need to name this, because otherwise we're just going to be sat there scratching our heads like, what are we calling this? Because this is another thing we're probably going to talk about. Unless you name and label something, people are confused. Like, so that's the unfortunate side to it. It can't just be as it is. It needs some sort of label. But I was calling it, obviously I'm teaching at Pole Athletes now, Dakini. Did I say that right? Studio Dakini, that's right, there we are.
Wait, it's changed, the studio's changed names?
Yeah, she's changed it from Pole Athletes to Studio Dakini. It takes me a while to register things, so yeah, she's made that rebrand change. Looks amazing inside as well. It's got like proper plant. I feel like a lot of studios are doing this, like plants and fresh and just basic backgrounds. I'm here for it, but
because it was all black before, right?
Yeah, no, it's still dark, but she's took a lot of the greens out, as in like the green yoga mats and the green accessories and just replaced it with just more like birch interior. Oh, I love it. I'm here for it. Like,
Nice.
I like it. It looks good. What was we saying anyway? I just completely forgot.
We were saying about what you're calling it. So what are you calling it now?
So I started to call it Express Strip. And the reason I did was because obviously it's expressive, and that's all I can really describe it as is an expressive expression. It's high level of musicality, I would say. I'm listening for every little, I'm delayering that song, and I am listening for every beat, and I'm also like making sure my body's moving correctly to that sound. So like even when I do some like weird stuff with my face sometimes and sort of make it shudder, and that's to the beat, and it looks odd but it works. I don't know. And like, so yeah, high musicality, sort of acrobatic.
So why the strip? I asked that because have you heard of like strip plastique before? That's a style that people have called.
I've heard of it, but I don't really understand what the plastique means. See what I mean?
That's what I mean. But also, it's not plastique, but they also don't strip. But you don't strip either.
No,
not in your videos you post.
I know.
So where's the strip come from?
It's a difficult one because it's the shoe. And I'm like, well, I think it's still in its early days, so it probably will just end up being Express. But I feel like something needs. If you've got any ideas, please fire them at me. I'm open to suggestions. But I do like the Express.
I like Exo Alien. I think that's really cool. Exo Alien.
Do you know what? I like it. Do you know what? Where's my notepad? I'm going to write that one down. Exo Alien. Like, that is cool. It is cool, but it's like, I don't know whether this is going to be like I don't know. Honestly, I know people are loving it, but do people want to dance like it? That's where I'm at. What do you think? Like, people like this, but do they want to learn?
I don't know about you, but I feel like with styles like yours, when people want to learn stuff, they want to learn small accents, but they're never going to be able to go to the full extent that you go when it comes to these crazy, like interesting movements. So, I mean, my advice to you would be to create something that has small little accents and a taster of what you do.
Yeah.
Because, you know, like if you went there and you started teaching them and you're like, and now I want you to get your face and I want you to shake it and I want you to do this, and they'll be like, oh God, this is almost too much for me. But if you gave them the tiny little, because the workshops are really supposed to be like an insight into what you do. So when you're coming to teach workshops for me at the Exo Empire weekend, and when I'm so excited to have you for that as well. I'm excited to learn your style, but as well, like, I think because no one has danced that style, you can't be like, okay, well, you're all used to this style, so let's go for something really hard. I think you pretty much have to teach it, I guess, like everyone's beginners, because they are. It doesn't matter how advanced someone is. Like, I will probably take your class, and I know Ali's probably going to take it with me as well. And, if you went for exactly the same choreo that maybe you've posted on your timeline, oh my God, I'd struggle so much because those movements are so intricate and it's so in depth that I feel like maybe it'd be a bit out of our depth. Yeah. So I think that's the same with kind of anything, isn't it? Like giving people a taster of kind of like the style that you do without fully immersing them into how crazy it gets in your brain when you're making these, do you know what I mean? When you're making these pieces. Yeah. So I think like, that's probably the best way to go about it. But yeah, I think it's so cool. Like, do you think there's anything in your past, that contributes to the way you move?
Yeah, I think all of it. I think.
Do you think?
Yeah, I think I've hit that level of like, I cannot small myself for people anymore, and I cannot just people please anymore. I've hit that like really dangerous level of I do not care anymore. You are going to see this. This is me and it's authentic. And I think that's come from not being able to even express myself in voice or being quiet, shut down. And it's definitely come from just not being able to be myself for a long time. And so now I'm like, I am not spending any more time of precious life being quiet or scared to take up space. And I think that's probably where this was like born for sure. Yeah, and the creation side, I think when you're like when you've hit different depths of like say depression or experiences, your creativity is just going to be wild because you're going to draw from some wild experiences as well. I do think life has a big part to play in like the creative side of things and stuff. And also, if you exercise the creative muscle, I think you're always in that creative mode. Like, I create every single day, and I always try and learn something new every day as well. Like one little movement, even if it's just like 5 minutes, like what can I do from this? And just every day, even if it's 5 minutes or an hour, I don't care. I have to learn or just express myself in a little movement every day. So I'm just always creating. I think that's the most important part to it as well. Just exercising.
It must be hard as well, as like you're saying, you're not gonna small yourself for anybody anymore, and you're not gonna be afraid to take up space. It must be really hard as well now that you are doing it after however long of holding yourself back, to realize like, oh my God, now I'm not doing that. Look at this success that is like flooding my way. Like,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? It must be like, why did I hold this person back? Like, how does that translate like to the brain? Like, how does that make you feel? Does it make you feel good? Does it make you feel like frustrated with yourself that you did it for so long? Or are you just happy that you're here now?
No, I'm definitely happy I'm here now. There's some frustration, I guess, but I think like timing is key for everything, and we can like wish that we'd have done something years ago. And I fall victim to this. We all do it. I'm like, oh, if only I knew that back then. But everything's sort of set out anyway, and you will get there when you get there. And it's absolutely fine to be late to the party. And like sometimes, like it's bizarre, but like I find myself quite spiritually attuned, and like I know there's always a lesson in things, but there's always something to learn as well. And it's I'm okay with where I'm at now, and I'm so glad that like I don't care. Like I don't care if I offend you or you do not like me, because it's just not that. It's all for you to deal with. Like if you don't like somebody, what are they doing that's making you feel uncomfortable? Because it's always a projection. So your dislike on people is always you. So you have to bear. I know there are instances like I've struggled with bullying a little bit, like being bullied, and you think, what? Am I a bully then? Because I don't like this person because they bullied me. Like, there's certain situations where that doesn't apply, because you sometimes
within the pole industry or
Yeah.
outside of the pole industry.
In general, but yeah, within the pole industry for sure. Like there's been, I was tiptoeing for a while, especially at the beginning. But it's hard because I want to. That's another thing as well. Like we're not quite there with the pole industry yet, and I'm hoping for a little bit of change. And you can see that people are, there's things going on and stuff. But there is an element of nastiness in this community. But I think it's down to the unhealed people. Pole attracts a lot of unhealed people. It does, because
I agree.
You are counselling everybody, and unfortunately, not everybody is going to heal from things. So we've got a lot of unhealed people in the community. So you just have to bear that in mind. Like you're dealing with.
Pole is not therapy, people.
It's not
Pole is not therapy. Go and see a therapist. Thank you.
that like it's bizarre, but that unfortunately, if you're unhealed, you're going to project jealousy anger, or the victim mentality of like, that's not fair. Why are they getting all the praise and it should be me? Like these things are.
Have you had that?
Go on for some time if you've not healed them.
So have you experienced that? Like, can you tell me, you don't have to say names, obviously, unless you want to. But like, you know, what experiences have you had? Like, have you had that where people are like, why is she getting the success and why am I not? Is that the sort of like the hate that you've received?
So, I don't want to like name drop at all because it just makes me
No,
uncomfortable.
don't. It's
But
okay.
also, like, this is another thing. I think everybody's scared to speak up about their experience in this community because there seems to be a hierarchy, and so sometimes I hold myself back in that sense of like, I know other people are feeling this way as well. So, but it's also, I'll give you an example. When I came off the stage at XGen UK, I opened my results and I was so shocked by them that my instant reaction was, fuck off. Because I felt really just angry. Like I just couldn't understand it. And a friend of mine said to me, Amie, go get your belongings, pack your bag and get out of here. Do not show anybody you're bothered, because if you show one person you're bothered, you will never be able to compete again, I promise you. And I was like, what, for having a reaction? Like a normal human reaction? Like, it was bizarre. Like, it's always like, let's tiptoe and not address things that are occurring. But yeah, when I've taught before, I've had other instructors not happy that I am teaching something, and that's not fair because that's what they teach and you can't teach that. So, and that's another example of smalling myself down to please people. So it does get difficult.
They probably meant, do you not think that they maybe meant more along the lines of like, you don't want to kick off at a competition because it can just give people a bad rep, no matter what it's for. I mean, there was people once at a Pole Theatre, I can't remember who they were from a different country. And I remember they weren't happy with something that happened and they wanted to complain to Stacey, and one of them punched the wall. And I was just like, oh my God. It was like, and Stacey was like, what is wrong with you, kind of thing. And obviously, like, Stacey don't take any shit. And of course, she absolutely shouldn't. But, you know, so then it might make people think differently of them. Like, this is, and I have to say, like, I'm very much, I've been in this industry a long time and I play the game. You know, I've been at competitions where I've not placed, or I've come second. I've thought, don't really agree with that. Or I've read my feedback and I've thought, I don't really agree with what's being written here. But I've always just been like, grab your stuff, get out of the building, because you don't want anyone to see you react. And because then you just call someone. So that's what I used to always do. I'd get into my car, I'd drive home and I'd call someone and we'd have a good old bitch. And by the next day, I'd feel absolutely fine. I'd be totally over it. You know, but in that moment, I agree with you. Like, you just want to be like, fuck off or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think maybe what your friend meant was more like, you know, let's not overreact here because you don't want people to see that you've taken it so hard. Not that it's not justified. And actually, I want to talk about that as well.
Hey, so sorry to interrupt your podcast. I just wanted to hop on really quickly and just tell you about one of our new sponsors for this week's podcast, and it is Hustler Heels. Look at these. If you are watching on YouTube or you've got Spotify and you can see the video, look how gorgeous these amazing heels are. Hustler Heels are a very new brand, and if you know Grip and Glow, it's owned by the same person, so you know you're going to get good quality and you're going to get a really good customer service. But how cute are these heels? Like, I've not seen heels that look like this. The detail on them is amazing. The back with the lace and stuff is just so pretty. So I definitely recommend you just go and check out Hustler Heels. You can check them out on hustlerheels.co.uk. They've got lots of different designs and they're coming out with lots of new ones too. So definitely a brand you need to check out. And with all these amazing heel brands that we have now, we're just going to see the quality getting better and better. And that's so evident in these heels because the quality of them is just amazing. It's literally perfect. It's just so beautiful. Like, the detailing on these is just gorgeous. So if you haven't already, Get on your phone, go onto the internet, go and check out hustlerheels.co.uk. Let's get back to the episode.
But yeah, it's funny. I want to know what you meant about, you were like, there's a hierarchy within the pole industry. I'm more intrigued. What do you mean by that?
Clicky. That's what I mean. Groups. I feel like and also like, it's almost like, I don't think it's intentional either because of the pressure of social media. It's almost like everybody's gone absolutely insane on Instagram where they need to be a part of this group and that group and we're doing this and da 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 da, and it seems to be so divided. And yeah, it feels like it's bonkers. Am I just seeing that myself, or are you seeing this, or am I just on my own
No.
here?
I've actually talked about it on this podcast before. It's really funny, actually, because there was a time where pole was very much, I mean, this was back when I first started. It was a long time ago, like 2008. Like around about then when the community was so small, like there was barely any studios. Like it was very much a one united front when it came to pole. It was really, really nice. And then more styles started to emerge, you know, because originally it was very much like stripper style, trick style. That was kind of it.
Yeah.
There wasn't this Russian exotic. Then there was this flow and, you know, exo alien and all these different styles that people are dancing now. There was none of that. We didn't have that. I mean, back then we didn't even really have, you know, contemporary pole tricks and tricks. It was never really separated like that either. It was just, this is the pole trick style, this is the heel style. That was kind of it. So we're very united. I would say back then the only thing that we did, it was separated a bit because we were still very much hated by strippers back then. Not that much has changed on that now, but you know, so it was separated in that sense. But now, I mean, if you look at the UK industry, I've talked about it many times and I don't mind even mentioning names. I won't though, but you know, you've got like the flow style, like heel girls. Then you've got like the heel girls, like, you know, Hannah Dobson, like, Hannah is so chill. Like Hannah doesn't put herself in cliques. Hannah just wants to have a fucking great time. She doesn't. Sometimes she likes to do hard style. She loves a kip. You know, she likes to do a bit of flow as well. But she doesn't put herself in a clique, and that's why I really like people like Hannah, which is why I'm happy to mention her name.
She's so cool.
But you know, when you're just like, there are people that are putting themselves in groups, and I don't like that. It's just like really segregating people.
Yeah.
But I agree with you.
Thank you, because sometimes I feel on my own with it, because I also think this is also starting to affect competing, and it has a knock-on effect in a sense of like, if you know people, it puts you at an advantage, and that does happen. It does occur. And I'm not saying that's all the time, but these things do happen. And we do see that. We've all probably seen this happen before. And I think it's just really important to remember that we all love pole. And when it comes to competing, people put a really big chunk of their life into it. And it's really important as a judge to just acknowledge that whilst you might favour someone because they've been really good to you, etc., please just watch everybody with a neutral sort of brain, and that's the main thing, because I think that worries me the most, especially with sort of the baby polers that are competing. I had a girl recently like burst out crying on the phone to me. She was in bits, and she was like, and the judge was giving the girl private lessons, and it was like, I don't know how to help you like feel better, because this does happen.
It's a difficult one. Listen, I had a period where I judged for a long period of time, and I stepped out, and I think I stepped out just at the right time.
Yeah.
I stepped out for two reasons. One, because I was too busy, but two, because it was becoming increasingly hard to really be able to call it on who could win.
Yeah.
Because everyone was starting to just get to a level where it was really picky between each.
Yeah.
But also because, like you said, I could go to a competition and I could watch the whole competition, and I'm telling you that I would probably have a personal relationship with a minimum of like 20% of them.
Yeah.
Because it's only a small industry.
Yeah.
Like, look at iPad. They just had iPad, right? I mean, I teach Rachel. I'm friends with Pam McGee. I've taught Esme before. I really love Esme and I love her
Yeah.
style. I'm a big fan of her.
Yeah, same.
All these people that are on this stage, and I'm like, so if they'd asked me to judge that, how do I judge that? And you know, I love it when judges always say, because I used to say this as well, and now I laugh because I'm like, well, it doesn't really matter. But, you know, I used to always say, because Jade Bensalem is a perfect example, because there was a period at the beginning of her career where she competed in everything and she was winning everything. And I know lots of people felt that it was because I was always judging a lot of the competitions. But I was always the lowest scorer for her, always. And it was because I was so harsh on her. But actually, it is one of those things like, sometimes without even realizing it, like for example, you know, if there's someone on stage that you know is super famous, is a style that you love, you followed them for years, you admire this pole dancer, how are you not going to favor them? How are you not? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's almost impossible to, because as soon as they walk on stage, you know you're going to like it because you're a fan of theirs already.
Yeah.
So we almost need people who have no connection to be able to judge these people. But then if they have no connection to them, the lightness is that they're not in the industry. And if they're not in the industry, how the fuck are they going to judge? They're never going to know. So it's such a...
Yeah, go on, sorry.
I was just going to say, it's just such a hard one, isn't it? Like, what's your views on it? Because I know you had a bit of an experience. So tell us.
I think that we're at a really bizarre point where competing is on the verge of becoming quite toxic, but in a way that, like, there's
You think?
Yeah. In a way that there's room for improvement. I definitely think there could be a lot of changes, small minor changes that could be implemented, and just being a little bit more careful about people and competitors in general and what we're saying, maybe, like, you know, mediators, etc. But I'm going to be so honest. When I entered You Filthy last year, right, it was a dream. As in, like, I worked dead hard for that, by the way. So obviously 4 months solid, I was like, all right, I've got to have some sort of redemption here. Because I wasn't working, like, I wasn't teaching at that point. I'd come off social media a bit and I'd just lost my house, etc. So I was like, I'm making a bounce back. So let's go do it. And it paid off and it was amazing. And
did you win that one?
Yeah, I won You Filthy. And that was my first comp. So I was buzzing. I was like, boom. I was like, do you know what? I didn't even need to go back and compete. I've just took a pro title, sound, retire now, finish. Like, and then because I had, like, a really great panel, I didn't actually know any of them individually either. It was Jacob, Annie, Emma, Vanya, and I don't know the last person. I know there was 5 there. It was very dark. I couldn't actually see their faces.
Yeah.
But I didn't know any of them personally, and I think I was very blessed with that judging panel. Very fortunate that I think they were just the perfect first panel of judges I could possibly ask for. And the experience then from going from such a perfect comment, obviously Emma Coffey is just amazing at organising things. I think she just takes everyone's feelings into consideration and she puts like a lot of care into it, you can tell. And
she does.
She really does. And
I like Emma.
I love Emma, she's great. Do you know what, she's just like the complete opposite to me, as in, like, she's just straight to the point, whereas I'm like, la-di-da-di-da. I like people like that, you know, that just, like, gets the job done, whereas I just veer off topic constantly.
I think that's why she runs good competitions, you know, because she reminds me a lot of Stacey. She's just to the point. She's just like, let's not fuck around. Let's just get shit done. And that's kind of what you need to be able to run a good event. So that's why her events always do well.
But like X-Jan UK was really, like, whoo, just upside down. I don't even know how to begin with that. You know what, right? X-Gen was my dream, as in like absolute dream. I can remember, you know, like on YouTube when you saw the Russians and it first appeared, and it was like, oh wow, I love this. So my eggs were in one basket with that because that was like, I just loved it. I've always loved X-Gen, and I still do to this day. I love it. Right. So it was just, I'd put every part of me into that. And when I got off stage, I obviously had a message from Tatiana, who's like the founder, and she was like, "Oh my God, amazing!" And I was blown away that she'd even watched to start with. But like, I was like, "Oh man!" Like that moment, I was like, "No, you've done you've got what you've needed from it. Like you've
So
had."
tell me about that. She was watching you on the live stream, was
Yeah,
she?
yeah. She messaged me.
And what did she message you?
Straight away, like literally, I got off stage, decompressed, and the message was there. And she was like, amazing, like, well done, that was amazing. And I was like, for me, I was just like, oh my gosh, like, incredible, like the founder, like, and the reaction, the audience were insane. Like, I've never experienced that before. Like, they're like, oh my God. And I was like, whoa, like, I was so overwhelmed by the audience in a good way. Like, they just absolutely loved it. And I think that's what caused a lot of like internal issues with it, was the feedback from everyone was insane, but what I saw on the score sheets wasn't. So there was this like, what happened? Like what happened? Because even one of the sheets said this was a theatrical piece, and that was it. That was all that was written on it. And I was like, I don't get that. What do you mean? Like expand? But it caused a lot of mental instability. But like, you can't just pin it on one thing, because obviously everyone's always got something going on. And if you're sort of getting low over a competition, then you probably need to do some inward work anyway. But it was just wild. Like, it took me ages to recover from that comp.
So when you did, because there's only a winner announced, right? They don't announce anyone else. It's just the winner they announce,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So what sort of was it when you didn't win, you left, and obviously you felt some kind of way about it. Did you get to find out where you placed?
Yeah, I did. I actually emailed, and I came fourth.
That surprises me. Oh, that actually surprised me,
I
because I was going to say, I
no.
was like, because
No.
I thought you would have come second, actually. Only because I watched it, and like you said, the reaction from the crowd was just like intense. But yeah, I mean, because you were in you were in Flow.
That's it. This is the thing we're facing now with heels and styles, is that I did Flow, it just wasn't traditional, and so it was
Exo Alien Flow.
it was an alien flow. So do you know, if I'd have sat back and watched, I would have said the most traditional flower in that category would be Lisa Hammond, because she just flows like it's just stunning. Like, I'd say all of us sort of branched out into our own little styles, whereas Lisa's very just continuous traditional.
I mean,
flow.
I can't remember if she was in your style. Was it Suka?
Yeah, I think she was in mine as well, Flo.
I think that was her name. I can't remember, but she. I remember watching hers and thinking like she was really, really good. It was really hard because for me, I remember watching at the time thinking it was between you, Jazzy, and maybe it's Suki.
It's Suki, I think.
Suki.
I think. Sorry, Suki.
Is it Suki? Yeah. Suki, yeah. So I'm like, Suka? That doesn't sound right. But yeah, and I remember thinking like, what a hard decision. But like you said, I think we're at a stage now where the style's so different. What box do they put you in?
Yeah.
You know, Jazzy is obviously very well known for doing flow, but it's that whole thing of what is flow and why can't there be different, and this is the thing. It's like you've got hard and then you've got, and so people assume that exotic hard is just kips and stuff, but I actually consider people like Sasha Meow to be hard style.
Yeah.
She doesn't do loads of crazy kips. She just dances really fast.
Oh.
And it's fucking hard. It's like, and it's quite like, yeah, it is hard, but like the style of it is like, the movements are hard. It's just that she's not doing loads of, well, she does a couple, I guess, but like she doesn't do like these big hands down, crazy kips and stuff when she's dancing. Like it's more dance style, but I would still say that she's hard style. Mm-hmm. So then how do you judge Sasha Meow against Alina Kazmina, for example, who I also would describe as hard style, when Alina's doing like all these crazy kips and stuff and Sasha's doing really cool dance in hard. This is the problem that we have, is that really it's subjective. It's all down to what the judge is like. And this is where I think we have the problem, is that we can't really run an industry like that. And you can't, this is why though, kind of going slightly off here, but like, this is why competitions don't make famous pole dancers anymore, because they don't account for anything.
No.
I mean, obviously Jazzy was already famous before that comp, but let's say, for example, she won that competition. No one would care because it doesn't mean anything. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't mean anything anymore because, they might have liked the person before her as well, or the person that was third also. Yeah. So, but back in the day, it was that there was always clear winners, right? So back when I used to do competitions, like it was always about like a case of like, when Bendy Kate used to compete, she was the clear winner. She used to get workshops because she was the outstanding one. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Whereas now we got lots of outstanding people. So the top three could all be outstanding. So it's just really difficult. And the fact that obviously we have way too many competitions now. So we're just generating so many winners that actually people don't really account it as much anymore.
Yeah.
I actually think you've got more chance of doing it through social media than at a competition.
Yeah, it's weird. I think it's a hard one because I think people want to get themselves out there and get themselves seen. But you've got to know why you're doing it. Like, I think for me, it was more like a reclaim of, like, I'm coming back in and I'm coming back in strong and you're going to notice it. Whereas, like a bounce back where I think a lot of people probably, it depends. I think if you're going in specifically for a win, you're going to get heartbroken. Like, you really are, because honestly, it can come down to the tiniest things. And I really don't want to take people's wins off them. I really don't. But it's almost like you're not even really winning anymore because it can just be so micro. And I think you've got to just, for me, like now, going forward this year, I've entered far too many competitions. And you know what? I reckon karma will bite me because I'll probably get in all of them just because I'll learn my lesson not to enter that many competitions. But my reasoning for competing this year has shifted, and I really enjoy putting a message out there. I'm trying to tell you something. That's why my bios are non-existent. I'm not even going to tell you what's going on. I want you to just watch my interpretation of what's going on. And also, if you can inspire like even a handful of people, I think you've done your job. Like, it depends what you're doing. But if you're going in specifically to be known or acknowledged or win, like, you've got to be really careful with that, because sometimes it's not even nice to be social media famous. It actually comes with a lot of shit.
It does.
It
Trust
really
me,
does.
I know.
It's really not that glamorous. And also, people have expectations from you that are ridiculous, like absolute ridiculous expectations. We're all human, like we're just human beings. Like, when I come off this conversation, I'm going to go make a cup of tea, probably sweep the floor, go for a walk the dog, pick up dog poo. It's just a normal day.
Yeah. What do you think the exotic generation competition and what you kind of went through, you know, mentally within yourself, what do you think you learned from the experience?
Oh my gosh, loss is a redirection, like 100%. I was like, oh, we're doing this now then, because it wasn't a loss. It was like I had a deep conversation with myself again, like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? And what do you want to do next? So yeah, from that I just learned that I wanted to stop. There's still elements of my dance where I'm still being quite traditional, and I'm unlearning it all. At the minute, it's an unlearning process for me. So I'm like, I am not doing that anymore, but bear with me because something else is coming out, and you can see it's being born, but we're a bit like, what are we even calling this? So I like Exo Alien. I'm going to take that with me if you don't mind.
Yeah, of course, it's cool. Like,
It's so
I mean, I
cool.
like the use of exo at the moment rather than the word exotic for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think exo sounds cool. But an exo, I just like the word alien because when you're moving, it's like you could literally put an alien costume and it would be the movement I'd expect something extraterrestrial
So
to
true.
do. Do you know what I mean? Like something really cool, like it's thinking outside of the box. Like, how do people normally move, and how do I want to move? And I
Yeah.
like that. It
Yeah.
is cool. I'm glad. I'm glad that the experience taught you, you know, something about yourself, and that you took something away from it. And it, you know, it isn't anyone who competes. I always say, like, just because you didn't win doesn't mean you lost. It
No,
just means that you didn't win. There's no losers really,
no.
because, you know, it isn't like out of two people where it's like one person's going to win, one person's going to lose. You know, sometimes this was the problem as well. And that's why I stopped judging, is because sometimes we had a freaking stage of people who we thought, fucking hell, like, who are we going to give the win to here? Because they're all so good. Do you know what I mean? Like, and this is the problem. Sometimes you can have a stage of winners,
Yeah.
and only one can take the crown. You know, you can't be like, oh, well, you're all the winner. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't work like that. And
Mm.
it just doesn't mean anything if you don't win. It doesn't mean anything. It's not a sign. It's just, it wasn't your day that day.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
I'm glad.
But
I'm
yeah,
glad I'm doing. I'm glad I'm carrying on as well, because I was like, should I? Should I? Why am I doing this? I could easily just do content, and I love content. I absolutely love it. So, but this, I'm still in there. I'm still in the game. I'm like, no, come on, we're going back again, because I don't think I've conveyed what I need to get over yet. And I think it's not when I know it's time to stop, I will stop. I'll know when it's time to give it a rest. But um,
how many comps have you entered?
are you ready? 7.
What's I'm trying to think of, like, okay, exotic generation. What else? Like, name all these other 6. Like,
Should I
which
name
ones?
all of them that I've entered? Well, what if we don't get
Yeah,
into
go
go,
on.
ah!
No one cares. It's fine.
Okay,
God,
okay.
I actually bet you any money you'll get into all of them and you're going to regret it
Oh,
so
do you
bad.
know? This is the thing. I was like, what have you done? Amie, where are you going to get this time from? But anyway, we moved. So my first one is, Mystique, which is near Amsterdam, and that's March. The second one
Nice.
I've entered, and I think we find the results out in the next few days, is Great British. And
Oh, okay.
yeah, and then the third one is Eden, and that's base
Okay,
work.
the London one.
Yeah. Fourth is XGen Worlds, and that's just closed its
Where is
entry.
that?
That's virtual, which is
Oh,
cool.
wow,
Yeah,
cool.
it's cool. Uh,
Nice.
the fourth, which has already been announced, is Pole Theatre. No, is that fifth? That's fifth. Is it fifth or fourth? I don't even know. Next one I've entered is Pole Art. And
Okay, that's cool. I think that's a good one to enter, Polar.
I actually want to enter. I haven't entered this one yet, but I'm planning on entering. I don't know what it's called, but it's got something called holography in it. Do you know what I mean? It's got a category called holography. I don't. No one has
Yeah,
told
what
me about it.
competition is that? I recognise that. Who is that?
Yeah. Look who's trying to think. I want to do one
I
more
know, I
abroad
can't.
as well, 100%, because I absolutely loved competing in Italy. It was amazing. I had the best time.
Yeah,
Honestly, just
it is fun.
it's so much fun. Like, also, the pressure is nowhere near as bad because who cares, man? Like, and then, also the language barrier, depending on if you don't understand the language or not, is amazing, really, because then you're not like as stressed having all these like stressful conversations because you have no idea what anyone's saying. Like,
I remember doing one in Cyprus and I really loved it. It was like me, Hannah Keynes, Naisha Gogo. I think and Kat Meadley at the time. We kind of all went together as a group to compete and we had a great time. Like it was actually really good fun.
it's
But
so good.
I am conscious of time because we've come to top. We're like 10 minutes over. Sorry if you're listening to this podcast. I'm so sorry. But I've had so much fun talking to you. Before you go, I just want to know what do you like? What's your goal? Like, I love asking people this question. Do you have like a 5-10 year plan of what you want to achieve with your life or career?
Yes, I want to 100% short term just graduate because that's an achievement. I think that's something I've always wanted to do. I definitely see myself not being in the UK in the next 5 to 10 years. And I definitely have just sort of the goal of not overworking, actually just working to a comfortable rate, enjoying life, having a good balance. I definitely want to not overload my weeks and probably go down more workshops only type. And maybe also, this is a thing, I need to really hurry up with getting online because honestly, I struggle, like, because I stopped teaching before everyone went online. Now I'm like overwhelmed. I've got a lot to learn because obviously there are people like in other countries that want to learn from me, and I'm like, well, I can't teach you. And it's like, that's the whole point of going online, Amie. So that's another goal, is that I want to bring everything online eventually. So yeah, I think just developing. I just want to enjoy this year of like figuring out where I'm at with my style and putting that out, and maybe just doing it like you said, very short and sweet instead of overloading people with it. And yeah, I'm excited actually. I'm really excited for this year and I'm excited for the future, which is, I've not said that in a while, so that makes me happy just saying that. So thank you for asking.
Oh, well, I'm really pleased for you. I'm super excited to see what you do, and I've enjoyed following your career so far. So I'm super excited to see where it's going to go. I know it's going to go big places. So I'm very excited for you. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to seeing you at XO Empire weekend. And yeah, until next time.
Take care, my love. See you later.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. And as always, make sure you send me a little message if you have anyone that you would like on the show. And until next time, bye.
That was all the tea that you can get this week. Join me next time right here. It's the Weekly Tea.